Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with 3 horse racing tips for Royal Ascot and Redcar racing for Friday. So let me get into it. So, no bet on Thursday. I've got 6 horses for you and it's 8 pence each way. Lucky 63. It's at Redcar and at Royal Ascot. So let's get on to Redcar first. I haven't placed a bet yet. Also, please note, I will not be taking the prices. The prices are just for indicative. If I've said that right. Yeah. I've lost my train of thought now. Basically, I'm not taking prices. they're just so you can see that they're what price they currently are. So let me get into it. So the first selection is Indie Skies at 4-1 in the 145 at Redcar, paying 5 places instead of 3. So let me make it clear. As you're well aware, friends of the channel, regulars of the channel will be well aware that there is a draw bias at Redcar. However, I am not sure how it will play out, but I've got a good idea tomorrow what's going to happen. So it's currently good to firm all over, watered in places. So there might not be such a draw advantage. And also, a new one for the channel is the stalls are on the inside, which never normally happens. They're either in the centre of the course or near side. When the stalls are on the near side, in ground described as, so let me just state. So when the ground is, let's say, soft, heavy in places, we know that the far side is soft and the rest of the course is heavy. When it's like good to soft in places, it's good on the far side and good to soft on the rest of the course. Hence, there generally being a strong preference when there's 2 different descriptions for the going for the far side. Well, it's good to firm. So, but what I'm going to go for is I'm going for relatively low numbers, but I think there will now be an advantage by either leading or racing prominently. So, in disguise, I never actually realised it. So, in disguise, I believe what could possibly make all, and I think it's a horse just running into form that could be hard to pass and hard to beat. So the second selection is Titanium, also at 4-1 in the 215 at Redcar, paying 4 places instead of 3. The form of this horse is very interesting. However, I am not keen on horses running 3 times and then going into a handicap. I like to see him run for the 4th time in a handicap, then decide whereabouts they are. However, I cannot overlook this horse because on its debut, it ran over 7 furlongs on soft ground, I believe at Redcar. It had been gelded before that, and I think they always come on for the run once they've been gelded. So for it to be its debut and to run an half decent race, it didn't want dropping back in trip, but it was dropped back in trip last time. Well, the next run over 6 furlongs, and it didn't want that. And then it ran, I think, over 6 furlongs again in a race where Resdev something ran in it. It's the 40-1 I picked at York. Well, it was drawn next to it, and it disputed the lead with this horse before. They both dropped back, but Resdev came again, and that's what caught my eye that day. Well, this horse didn't quite come again, but it's only rated 60. Well, I think Resdev were rated like nearly 80. Diligent Resdev, I think it was called. So I think this is a shocking race. So I'm thinking that Titanium, if it handles the quicker ground, it could be a very, very well handicapped horse, although 4-1 stinks. So the third selection is Chuzzlewit at 17-2 in 250 at Redcar, paying 5 places instead of 3. This is a horse where the stable is gradually running into form. It's Kevin Ryan's stable, and at the time, it ran a couple of races, I believe, in March, and then it's ran recently in May. And I think it was slowly away last time, but in the past, it's ran quite keen and not quite got home. I think if it settles a little bit better, races prominently, I think there's potential preference for racing prominently and the quicker ground, which it doesn't normally run on, could ensure that this horse stays the trip. And I think it could be quite difficult to pass. I'm just trying to think how I think these races might be run out. I may be completely wrong. The fourth selection is the most interesting. It's probably the nap of the day, but not a strong nap. So Vaguely Royale at 14 to 1 in the 425 at Royal Ascot, paying 6 places instead of 4. So if my nap's anything to go by, it's either going to run very well or be a non-runner. So let's see what happens. So I think Vaguely Royale's best trip is a stiff 1 mile 4 furlong, which is, I believe that's what the trip is tomorrow. I think that the 1 mile 6 and 2 mile that it's recently been running over could be helping to prep this horse for a win or a very good run at Royal Ascot, which is the race tomorrow. So I think Vaguely Royale at 14 to 1 it's going to stay the trip extremely well. I would fully expect it to race prominently. We don't want it over racing. We want it in about 4th or 5th and making a run just before the home turn without going too wide. I think it's got every chance if that's how it runs. If it's held up near the bag, I think it's got no chance because obviously it wants, this is its minimum distance. But I think it's got a cracking chance. I think it's only the second John and Thady Gosden horse I've picked so far. And the other one that I selected came second at 40s, LeMay. The next selection is another one of Michael Appleby's. It is Chagrin at 17 to 2 in the 6:15 at Royal Ascot, paying 7 places instead of 4. This is an interesting horse because it's another one where it's recently acquired it. So I've picked 2 Michael Appleby's where it's recently acquired 2 horses. I believe the first one was the very first one of the bet, In Disguise, and the next one is Chagrin. So this horse has ran very well since coming to Michael Appleby. What I do find interesting is last season it was trained by Clive Cox. Well, this horse ran behind Big Evs. Big Evs is basically the star of the Michael Appleby or Mick Appleby stable. So I'm thinking the fact that he liked possibly how this horse ran against his horse. Don't get me wrong, it was comfortably beaten, but maybe it showed up pretty well. And I think maybe he's quite impressed by it and thought, hey, there's maybe a decent prize in that. Well, we're going to find out tomorrow because I think Chagrin's got a decent chance. And then finally, after all that, I've kind of forgot why I've picked this one. Oh, I know why I've picked it. Forever Blue in the 5 past 5 at Royal Ascot in the Sandringham, paying 8 places instead of 4. I've changed tack slightly because all my horses have generally been running shocking at Royal Ascot. So this is a profile of a horse that I wouldn't normally go for, but I've looked at in the past. So this is a Ralph Beckett horse. It hasn't performed up to its handicap mark so far because what I was expecting is when it won it says readily when it won last time. I was expecting when I saw how it performed, when it won and performed well below its handicap mark, its racing post rating was well below its handicap mark. I tend to see that these are horses that are massively odds on. Well, when I looked, it wasn't, and I normally find that when a horse wins and it runs massively its racing post racing rating is massively under its handicap mark. When it wins, they tend to win cosily because they're expected to win, but they win with a minimum fuss. Well, I thought this was going to be the profile of this horse, but I looked at the price of it in that race, but I think it was something like 11 to 4. So I'm thinking that it won pretty cosily in a poor race, and therefore it's not been upped in the handicap mark. It's still off the mark of 95. Well, I think it's got a much more. It's capable of much more than that. I'm also interested in the owners. It's that Wathnown Racing. They've had about 2 horses in every single handicap. Well, I think they've done well. I don't know anything about the owners. So that is the bet for Friday. I want to have a good look at the Redcar draw because it's also a Redcar on Saturday. So hopefully we can get some kind of inkling into how they're running. So If you can give me a like or a subscribe or anything else, I'd really appreciate it. With 10 minutes in that, I've got to go. So the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.